Alright, here we are. We're doing a build video today. And build videos I got written right here just because, all my buddies, I build stuff all the time. And sometimes it's, relatively hard stuff, sometimes it's relatively easy stuff. But they all tell me that I should be filming the easy stuff because a lot of people want to do small, easy little projects. So for the next year or so, as I'm doing build videos, or as I'm building stuff, I'm going to do build videos. Some will be small stuff, some will be big stuff. Today's a small stuff thing. And people in my position, when you build stuff, people tend to be overcritical of it. So I always tend to overbuild even small stuff and put stuff on that you don't really need, just to do it, I guess. So when people look at my stuff, they always say, "Oh, that's ridiculous. That's $1,000 lug nut wrench," or something along those lines, which is what we're building today, is a custom lug wrench. And it's just because I like to do things right. I could take a socket, weld it to the end of a rod, and just throw it together, and it'll be useful. It'll actually work. It'll function. But if I throw that on my wall, everybody that comes to my house is going to look at that and go, "You built that?" So I'm going to build it right? So that's what I'm doing here. Why am I building a custom lug wrench? I have it's for an 8-end tractor, which is what I got written down here, which is the little gray tractors that Ford made a bazillion of, right? So I've got this tractor. It was my father's, and it was his father's before that he bought brand new in like 1945 or something. Well, I pulled out 2 4-ways. One was metric, one was standard, all right? I figured I'd have everything covered, right? Well, the nuts looked like somebody had chewed on them, and they were all stripped out and things. So I'm hammering the 4-way on to get the nuts off. They hadn't been off in a long time, so I ended up torching them to heat them up. And I'm hammering whichever metric or standard wrench would go on there on the 4-way. And then I got them all off. Well, here's the thing. It's a weird size. It's a 13, whatever I wrote down. Maybe I didn't write it down. I got the socket right here. It's a 13/16 actual nut. So it doesn't fit the normal 4-ways. So that's why we're going to make a custom lug wrench. And the reason they were stripped is because my dad or my grandfather probably did the same thing that I had to do. Couldn't figure out what it was, eventually stripped it to the point where nothing fit it. So we're going to make the custom lug wrench, and we're going to hang it on the wall right next to that tractor. And anytime I ever have to do anything with the tires, it's going to be there, okay? So that's why we're making a custom lug wrench. Here's the design that I came up with. Lug wrenches typically aren't the best design because, like I was talking about before, they're just trying to make them function, right? I want it to be user-friendly, so this is my design here. The overall length of this is going to be 20 inches, all right? It's going to be basically an X, or a plus sign, if you will, like that. So we have 2 sockets that I found. One is American made. That's what I got right here, American made. It's really old, and it's an actual good socket, right? Then I have this one that is so cheaply made that it doesn't even say that it's made in Taiwan or anything. It just probably is. So I wrote overseas for that one. I don't know where it was made. It doesn't say it. So the American made one we're going to put right here. So with 6 inches of probably solid rounds. You want solid rounds, I would assume, because you're going to end up spinning this in your hand. You don't want square stock or it's going to catch, right? So the American made one I want coming off of the 20-inch bar, because 20 inches I can torque that, right? So you want the better socket in there so you don't break the socket, right? So I'm going to use that as a breaker bar, if you will. And then once I break it free, I'm going to get the nut out and put your overseas nut on it with only 6 inches of bar coming off of it, because you want to be able to spin it and not hit the ground, right? So everybody's done this. You get the big long 4-ways, and the top ones maybe spin, then you get to the bottom, and what do? They hit the ground, right? So I'm going to make it with two sockets, one that you get good torque on, and one that you can spin really quickly in your hand. So you're going to break it with this one, and then you're going to put your hand on this right here and spin it and get the nut off, right? So that's my design thought process, if you will. So our cut list, I just kind of wrote this up here. The socket is 1.5 inches, so if it's 20 inches, 1.5 inches off of 20 inches is 18.5 inches. That's going to be one cut. This one up here, 1x6, and then down here, this socket's actually really long. It's 3.25 inches. So when we subtract that from 6, we're going to get 2 3/4. and we're gonna put it into this X right here, and then we're gonna have a custom lug wrench. So let's get out in the lab and start building this thing. Alright, here we are at the bandsaw. I got a rod here that I found. It's a solid round, 7/8 of an inch, kind of odd. But it measured out at exactly 30 inches, and I need 29. So I got my cut list right here. We're going to cut it up with this bandsaw. Alternatives to a bandsaw would be, most people in their garage I feel like have chop saw would work. I have a shear over there that would cut this, but if I cut it with a shear, it'll dimple the ends. I want to keep them nice and square so for fit up when we fat this thing up. So we're going to use a bandsaw. So here we go. We'll get into it. We just cut all the pieces on the bandsaw. I just laid it on the table here so you kind of see what I'm talking about. What we'll do now is I gotta deburr this thing, and then what we'll do is we'll tag it together after I mark it up, and then we'll take it in there and look at it before I do a final weld on it. So I'm gonna tack it up and then we'll look at it. Alright, so I just found center in this, then offset it for the diameter of the actual rod that's getting butted up to it, and I realized, you'll see right down about there, I crossed it off because I forgot one side gets the socket. So really what I want to do is find 10 inches and then offset it, so that's what I did. And if you notice when I was finding center, just a tip for when you find center, you measure it from each end in. That's how you know you get a true center. So you go from one side, then you flip the tape and go from the other side. But that wouldn't have worked for us because we needed to go 10 inches in to center because we forgot to offset for the socket. So I've tacked this baby up. If you're doing production, you'd want to get some kind of fixture going because we're doing it the old-fashioned way of hit it with a hammer, measure it with that speed square right there, which reminds me, never keep the speed square on the table when you're welding or it'll end up with weld all over it. So what we're going to do now is do some hard welds all the way around there, and then we'll look at attaching the actual sockets. So that's where we're at so far. Came out pretty good, nice and square. But you want to have at least 4 tacks on there, otherwise it's going to warp. And you want to weld the tops and bottoms first, and then the sides. Otherwise, it'll tend to warp in and out on you. And anywhere where it looks like it needs to suck in a little bit, that's where you want to start. Okay, so it'll straighten it out a little bit, just a little bit. You use your warps to an advantage. So we're going to hard weld this baby. Okay, we just got done doing the hard welds all the way around that. I wire weld a little bit because I think we're going to end up painting this. What I'm going to do now is put it vertically in that vise, and I'm going to put a bubble on it to try and make sure it's straight, and then kind of eye up these sockets, which I don't like to do. The worst thing you can do is just eye it up, but I don't see any other way around it. So, because see, if you look at the socket, it's got like a ridge on it. It's not perfectly smooth. So we're going to do the eye and tap. Onward and onward. To the eye and tap. Here we go. Alright, there we are. We welded the two sockets on there. The American made one right there. Welded a little funny, so it was definitely some weird alloy. I don't think it was too hard though, so it won't crack on us. And then, just so we'd always know what tractor this went to, we welded the 8N here on the end. And the last thing I'm going to do before we go to paint it is I'm going to take some drill bits and drill a good sized hole right there on the end so I can hang it from the wall right above the 8N. So I'll never have to worry about not knowing which socket goes on the lugs for the 8N tractor. So first thing you got to do to drill on something round is pop a little punch prick into it so the drill bit doesn't wander. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're going to do next. Alright, here she is finished. We just drilled that hole in there. I wanted a good size hole so I didn't have to worry about what size screw to put in. So the only thing left to do now is paint. Got to get her painted up because it's going to be in a barn, so it's going to get some moisture and it will rust. I don't think I did anything too fancy on there. But let's go ahead and paint this thing. I really suck at painting. I hate painting. I want nothing to do with painting. But here we are, going to paint this. So I just finished painting this thing. Here's the 8N with the hold on it there. And we're going to go mount it to the wall. We'll show you how it's used real quick first, and then we'll mount it to the wall and we'll be done with this. Flat black, the only way to go. So this is the 8N tractor. You can see there's the new tire, and you can see I've got new lug nuts on there. And they were so stripped out, that's how many wrenches I went through trying to figure out which one it was. I ended up pounding a 4-way on there. But we're all set now. Let's see how the old wrench works. We're going to try out the functioning part of this, make sure it works right. We made the short end for spinning really fast, and we made this long end for torquing it off. So we're going to try it out. So we're going to go on the long end first to break it free. Then once it's free, we're going to switch to the short end, and you spin it off like this, or vice versa when you put it on. Snug it there, go back to the long end, torque it down. I think it works pretty good. So it has functionability. Alright, all we gotta do now is throw it up on the wall, right over here in the barn, with 8N written on it. We should never second guess what we're actually using this for. And I bet I use this for the rest of my life. So let's throw it up on the wall. Last thing to do with this project is actually install it, so we're just going to impact the screw in way up here. Take this baby, hang her up, spot for it. Tractor's always parked here, and whatever that is. If you like little projects that are simple like this, I can do more build videos that are simple. If you like it, put it in the comments so that we know, and maybe we'll do some more of these. I do stuff like this all the time. I just don't video it because it takes a lot longer to do a project if you're actually videoing it. So if you like these small, simple projects, put it in the comments and maybe we'll do some more of them. But for now, I gotta go. Thanks for watching and subscribing to TV Welding. We're out of here.